ended up really becoming an artist for whatever reason. I spend a lot of my time in the studio on my own, and the one frustrating thing for me, although I still work a lot with storytelling, is that the images are always static. It's a kind of technical hitch, isn't it, of working as an artist?
Yeah, because from my point of view, I think of things when I draw them as a film. So I'm taking a still from a film in my head, sort of thing. So seeing the moving book was a really big deal for me, because you think, yeah, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to breathe life into sort of static visuals, you know. So I got quite emotional looking at it.
The nature of the Fantastic Beasts book is it's really removed from the actual world of Harry Potter, in that it predates Harry Potter's time at Hogwarts. So when he picks it off the shelf of the library, it becomes part of the Harry Potter lexicon. But prior to that, I really regarded it from the beginning as a reference book and as a dictionary, like some of the old Renaissance zoology books of the 16th century, you know, the early printed books. So that's where I started, actually, with the research. I haven't got the narrative that you've got.
No, I suppose not. But for me, I like putting those sort of. I love old library books, so I like putting that into the story as well. I think we've both got the same interest. We love old illustrated books, you know, old engraved illustrated books. So that's why I love Olivia's work, because it reminds me of everything that I like about books and the history of books, you know.
And I think for me and probably for the other millions of people out there, what's amazing about what you're doing is the depth of your work and the layers of research and knowledge that you have. And I think that love of and respect for the old books, I think that really comes through.
I think if I knew it was going to be animated, I probably would have, I don't know, I might have got a bit carried away, because if you know the possibilities of actually breathing life into illustrations, in actually sort of making them twist and turn and sort of flurry through the pages, then gosh, yeah, the potential is so great. I don't know if I'd have ever got the book done.
I came to the end of this quite intense sort of 15, 16 month period of work, and I think often at the end of a project you might sort of want to start it all over again, because I think artists, people are never happy with their work. You know, you always want to have another go, you want to do it differently. But in fact, I got to the end of that and I was thinking, I don't know if there's any other way I could have done it.
Welcome, said Hagrid, to Diagon Alley. And it runs, it's a long illustration. It was about 3 or 4 meters long, the real thing. But they've individually animated these little tiny pieces, which is a lot of work. So there's a little tiny creature in a cage. And the umbrellas. I think there must have been a shop that was selling. Diagon Alley, they'd animated just objects flying about, and that was a huge thing for me. Sometimes it's the very understated, very slight, subtle things which just introduce this lovely new element to the work.
So I think the next one's going to be the werewolf. Yeah, this was the one I really enjoyed seeing, actually.
This is charcoal.
Is it? It's not, actually. It was done as a dry point plate.
Oh, really?
Because obviously the Fantastic Beasts, well, as in the Harry Potter narrative, you know, there's a lot of transfiguration, transformation.
Yeah.
So my favourite in the Beasts book is the werewolf, which I had drawn the stages of. Yeah. You know, so you've got 1, 2, 3 stages of the transformation into the wolf from the man. And this is actually animated to achieve what's the right word for it?
Well, you've just got this living, breathing thing now, haven't you, where it metamorphosises before your eyes, doesn't it? So it's...
it is a metamorphosis in motion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think with the way I draw, it's very traditional and very kind of messy. So I imagine it doesn't lend itself very well, or it rather presents quite a big challenge, probably, to then adapt that to the digital... whatever program they're using to do this work.
When you're drawing, it's the messy things that I really like, the marks, and because I see your work and you see the marks of the printing plate, the scratches, and the little sort of it's the sort of paraphernalia around making a work of art that I really like, and you see that in your work, you see, which is why you see the handmade process. But what's interesting is then you've got this very very old process which we both use, which is printmaking, drawing, which is as old as people scribbling on sort of rocks and things, and then you're adding this incredibly advanced digital systems to just sort of breathe life into them. It's fantastic, really. It's a collision of some very...
The old and the new. It's,
yeah.
I think it gives birth to something, very...
Yeah.
Well, it's its own thing. I don't know how to describe it, really.
Yeah, it's new.
Yeah, it is new. There were some of the beasts in the book which I felt really lent themselves to illustrating in copperplate etching, partly because the whole process of printmaking was dictated really by chemistry, and I quite like that alchemical sort of reference. And the Erumpent was one of them. When I saw the ebook version of it, which has got the kind of glowing, shimmering horn, and it's also animated very subtly, it's sort of, breathing. I was particularly pleased with that one.
It's, for me, I think the things that appeal to me most about the moving version of Harry Potter is the small little subtle things. So it's the animals, it's the little creatures that twist and flex. There's a toad that just takes a little gulp and moves his tongue. So it's the little tiny subtle things I like.
So is that one Trevor the Toad?
That's Trevor the Toad. That's Neville's toad, pet toad.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why is he sticking his tongue out?
It's just that, so that you knew it was always Neville's toad, he would always have his tongue hanging out.
Ah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I think because it's an illuminated surface you're looking at, the way I work in my work is I tend to scan it in and then do little tweaks digitally, and it's on a backlit screen, so it's quite nice for me to see them looking all fresh and bright again, which is how I see them when I work on them. I like the unpredictable sides of things like printmaking. In that sometimes you'll run something through the press and marks come out that you never intended. But that makes the interesting for me, because you get so tired of your own handwriting, your own predictable way of drawing. And it's the same use. So I use digital software to just throw something different into the mix and create unpredictable results. So I'll scan things in and reverse them and play around, and even hitting the wrong button. That's how the ghosts came about. It's because I hit the wrong button and inverted an image. So black became white, white became black. So I started painting in negative, painting in reverse effectively, and then I would digitally reverse the image back to give this sort of ghostly. So sometimes those accidents. Quite fortunate, really. And it's the same in printmaking, isn't it? You'll have
I'm doing the same. I'm just about 300 years behind Jim. Because the equivalent of my digital media is the printmaking plate. So I use etching, which is sort of the same as Rembrandt was using. It's sort of 300-year-old medium. And I like it's almost like working with something else, working with an assistant. Except my assistant is a sort of 3-ton printing press.
It's nice. It's a two-way thing for me, because I do the illustration and they put this huge amount of work in, and then I get something back out of that as well. So it gives you inspiration for future books.
I was quite a little bit nervous, obviously, about how the book would be received when it came out. And in fact, everyone's been very positive, and I think I've only had really lovely feedback from people, all different ages, cross-generational. And I think that's what's amazing about the world of Harry Potter. It's just obviously crossing all of the ages, and I think for me it's only been a positive experience.
I think the fans have had the same response to the moving book that I have, really, in that it's that you get that initial sort of outburst of, it makes you laugh. I don't know why. You get sort of a moment of joy, and I really like that. It brings something fresh to it. You need inspiration really from wherever you can find it, and I think if you're working, it's a very lonely job working as an illustrator, so to have other people working on the same project effectively, bringing illustrations to life, then that's great. I'm happy to hear anything they've got to say.